The full moon casts a silver glow over a shadowy forest. The twisted branches of the trees claw at the sky. In the distance, a wolf howls, a mournful cry that pierces the still night. Deeper in the woods, snapping twigs and frantic footsteps break the silence. A terrified villager clutches a flickering torch, their voice trembling as they whisper, "I swear I saw him. He turned into a beast." But is this even possible? Could humans truly transform into wolves under the glow of a full moon? Are werewolves supernatural predators, misunderstood victims, or something else entirely? For centuries, this mystery has haunted humanity, and today, we're unraveling the legend, one chilling thread at a time. Stories of werewolves have prowled the dark corners of human history for centuries, from whispered campfire tales to the fevered screams of terrified villagers. But here's the question: why? What is it about this creature, the man who becomes a beast, that has endured for so long and across so many cultures? And here's the twist: could these stories hide a deeper truth, something rooted in science, psychology, or even a dark fragment of reality? Are they simply a reflection of our own primal fears, of what we might become if we lose control? Let's start at the beginning, or at least as far back as we can trace these howling legends. The idea of humans transforming into wolves obviously is not new. In ancient Greece, there was Laocoon, a king who had the brilliant idea to serve human flesh to Zeus. Zeus, not one for cannibalistic appetizers, cursed Laocoon to transform into a wolf as punishment. That's right, being a werewolf in this case wasn't a superpower. It was a very personal, "don't mess with me" message from the king of the gods. Move a bit north and you've got the berserkers in Norse mythology. These guys weren't just your average warriors. They wore wolf pelts, charged into battle in a wild, trance-like fury, and were said to channel the spirit of wolves. Think of them as werewolves minus the moonlight, but add a lot of axe swinging. Fast forward to medieval Europe, where the werewolf hysteria really took to life. Villagers accused neighbors of turning into wolves and attacking livestock, or even people. It was a time when superstition ran wild, and if you had a unibrow, bad social skills, or just lived a little too close to the woods, you might find yourself being accused of being a werewolf, kind of like the Salem witch trials in America's history. Over the centuries, these myths evolved, blending fear and fascination until we got the modern image of the werewolf, the cursed soul who transforms under full moon, doomed to wrestle with their inner beast. Throughout history, there have been moments when the legend of the werewolf bled into reality, or at least that's what people believed. These stories are chilling, bizarre, and sometimes downright horrifying. Let's start with one of the most infamous cases, Peter Stumpp, known as the Werewolf of Bedburg. In 1589, in a small town in Germany, Peter Stumpp was accused of being a werewolf responsible for the brutal killings of several villagers. According to the accounts, largely fueled by panic and superstition, he confessed under torture to striking a deal with the devil. Supposedly, the devil gifted him a magical belt that allowed him to transform into a wolf at will. While in wolf form, Stumpp allegedly slaughtered men, women, and children, feasting on their flesh. And to just crank up the horror a little bit, his confession included a detail about murdering and eating his own son. But not to jump to the end of this story, but Peter was executed in a way that ensured nobody would mistake him for human again. Let's just say the 1500s were not known for their subtlety. Then there's the tale of the Beast of Gévaudan, a creature that terrorized the French countryside between 1764 and 1767. Over 3 years, it reportedly killed more than 100 people, often targeting women and children. Witnesses described the beast as a massive wolf with an almost supernatural level of cunning. Some claimed it moved like no ordinary animal, evading traps and hunters with eerie precision. Panic swept through the region, and King Louis even sent professional hunters to kill the beast. Was it just an unusually aggressive wolf, or, as the locals whispered, a werewolf in disguise. Even after they think they supposedly killed it, rumors of more attacks continued, keeping the legend alive. And while those are two of the most famous examples, there are countless other werewolf stories scattered throughout history. In the 16th century, Frenchman Gilles Garnier was convicted of being a werewolf and executed for alleged murders. In Estonia, in the 17th century, a man named Hans was tried and executed after confessing to be a werewolf. The pattern here is clear. Whether from fear, hysteria, or just wanting to blame someone, accusations of lycanthropy often ended in bloody, tragic executions. What's fascinating about these cases is how they seem to follow a script. Mysterious murders, the shadowy figure of a wolf, and a scapegoat whose confession, often forced, fit the community's fears. So were these killers truly something otherworldly, or were they just men caught in a storm of fear and superstition? As eerie as these stories are, let's step away from the supernatural and into the realm of science, because there might be very human explanations behind werewolf legends. First, there's clinical lycanthropy, a rare psychological condition where people believe they've transformed into a wolf. Those who suffer from it report sensations like their teeth elongating, their nails growing into claws, or their skin sprouting fur. It sounds like a horror movie, but it's a documented condition likely tied to several mental illnesses like schizophrenia. In the 1500s, though, there wasn't a DSM handy, so these behaviors were often seen as proof of actual werewolves. And then there's rabies, a disease that's already nightmare fuel, if you even think about it. Transmitted through bites, it causes aggression, hallucinations, and excessive salivation. In a time when medicine was more guesswork than science, it wouldn't take much for a rabid individual to be mistaken for a beast. Next up, ergot poisoning, caused by a fungus that grows on rye. Consuming it can trigger hallucinations, seizures, and paranoia. Some historians think outbreaks of ergot poisoning fueled not just werewolf hysteria, but the witch trials as well. Imagine a village eating tainted bread and suddenly seeing wolves, or accusing neighbors of turning into them. And then finally, there's the full moon, the most famous werewolf trigger. While it's long been tied to strange behavior, ask any nurse that you know, science hasn't definitively proven the link. But the moon's eerie glow has always played tricks on our imaginations, and that might just be enough. When you put it all together, mysterious diseases, unexplained murders, and hallucinogenic bread, it's easy to see how the werewolf myth could take root. Even with rational explanations, though, one question remains: why are we still so captivated by the idea of werewolves? Let's talk about why werewolves have stayed in the cultural spotlight for centuries. They've gone from terrifying villagers in medieval Europe to becoming some of pop culture's most iconic monsters. The fascination with werewolves comes from the idea of duality, the struggle between our civilized selves and our primal instincts. Werewolves represent what happens when the beast inside takes over, a universal fear of losing control. Early literature like The Werewolf of Paris explored this, portraying werewolves not just as villains, but as cursed victims of their own nature. Then came Hollywood's The Wolfman in 1941, which set the standard for modern werewolf lore. Full moons trigger transformations, silver bullets are the solution, and the werewolf is a tragic figure doomed to live in their curse. It struck a chord and became a blueprint for countless films. Since then, werewolves have become cultural shapeshifters, terrifying in The Wolfman, campy in Teen Wolf, brooding in Twilight, and brutal in True Blood. They reflect our struggles with anger, fear, and the instincts we try to suppress. They've also become symbols of rebellion. The werewolf sheds societal expectations and embraces their wild, untamed self. Messy? Yeah, but absolutely liberating. But werewolves are more than just entertainment. Even today, reports of strange creatures persist. The Michigan Dogman, a cryptid said to haunt the Great Lakes region, or countless eyewitness accounts of man-wolf hybrids seen by truckers and campers. Most scientists dismiss these stories as hoaxes or misidentified animals. But isn't that what we've always done? Explain away the unexplainable. In the past, werewolves were scapegoats for fear and tragedy. Today, they still channel our primal fears into something tangible, something with claws and teeth lurking in the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, that's why they've stuck around. So the next time you're out under a full moon and hear a distant howl, pause. Sure, it's probably just the wind, or maybe it isn't. Werewolves remind us that no matter how much we evolve, a piece of the wild still lingers within us. You got your own werewolf lore or theories? Share them with me. After all, these stories survive because we keep telling them. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep an eye on the moon. You never know what's out there. Thanks for listening to this episode of 10 Minute Mystery. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps other curious minds find the show. And if you're craving more stories, but with a darker twist, check out my other podcast, 10 Minute Murder. It's still brief, it's still bingeable, but with a lot more murder. See you next time.